Okay, welcome everyone to the Historic Preservation Commission on January 14th, 2024. Happy New Year. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the December 10th meeting. Did everyone have a chance to look through those? And does anyone have any comments?
Oh, do we do roll call?
Oh, we
I
don't
know.
usually.
Okay, well, that's
We can if you'd like for us to.
it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's my first one with you guys. So I
Okay,
don't
just
know.
do what we do.
Yeah, stick with what you guys
They were in
do.
this packet. In this, they're right after the agenda.
Yeah,
Oh,
the second page.
Is there that? I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, there's
I
the
don't,
front
mine
and
don't
back.
have a back.
Oh,
here,
you're
I got you.
right.
We'll swap yours out.
That's fine.
Ignore that one. Well, let's just take, I'm just gonna take the whole back.
All right. There you go.
Just put it up there.
Thank you.
Basket. Okay. So meeting minutes, yeah.
Meeting minutes, yeah. Okay, so does anyone have any comments on that? Um,
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't have any. No.
Nobody, okay, all right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the December 10, 2024 minutes as submitted.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, then we're, the minutes are approved as written.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so then, we don't have any public hearings. So yeah, we're just gonna move on.
We have no visitors.
No visitor
Oh,
comments.
well, we
Yeah.
have one visitor.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't want to discount you, but you know.
that's a little different.
Right, yeah. So then new business. Yeah.
So on to new business, and that's the demolition of 605 North Elm.
Yeah.
So hopefully everyone had a
506.
506.
Yeah.
Just the 506, 605, that one.
Is it 506 now?
It says
Well, it
506
says both.
on the demolition request, but it says 605 on their agenda.
Whoops.
Let's see,
That's
most
on
of the
me.
things say 506.
It's
Yeah,
506 then. I apologize, guys.
So that's
Okay.
okay, 506.
I typed a memo in there to kind of go over. I did type a memo in there, 3 bedrooms, 6 rooms, dwelling. It is not on the in the historic district. The building itself isn't landmark. It is according to St. Louis County records, it was built in 1945. There is a total living space of about 960 square feet. Ground floor area is about 720 square feet. The applicant has owned the property for several years. They rented it out. It is a small bungalow. I actually can pull it up. Yeah, I can say I did also pull it up, but I think I gotta retype that from 506. There you go. Yeah, so it's this small little house right here. And there's like a church and a vacant lot right here, and then another house down there. But
And that house next door to it demolished.
It's already been.
oh yeah, see, I didn't even know that. So, so yeah, they want to demolish this house as well. The reason they said is just to reach the end of its utility, I guess, as a rental. Take with that what you will. The property is surrounded by residential. It's across the street from that church. It's up the street from Barbary Park. Okay. It's also not far from Glen Park as well, and Shady Creek Nature Preserve, which is all like this down right here. Like you can kind of see it in that corner because it's that main intersection when it kind of loops around.
So they just want to tear it down. Are they combining the two lots?
They have not indicated if they're combining the lots or what they plan on doing with it after. They just said
So we
it's.
do allow that. For some reason, I don't know why they allow
Yeah.
that in Webster. I wouldn't allow
Yeah.
it, but it's not
So
up to me.
That's right.
Well, it's
I'm
under
presenting you all the information I have.
properties, and he's doing all that development along Kirkham. I don't
Yes.
know if this is an extension of that,
So,
or, you know, he's got something in mind similar to that.
yeah, so it is Onder Properties, which from my understanding, I mean, since I've been here, I've had 3 things come across my desk by them.
Last year, we had several as well.
Yeah, and he also is the owner of the other property, the old business as well, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can say that I don't,
So
if I look at like this map here, I don't know about the ownership for these other properties, but here's the Brentwood thing, I think that is on the other property that's gonna be knocked down.
Right.
And so, yeah, so it's further up, it's right here.
So a clarifying question, so this person owns residential buildings throughout Webster?
Yeah, residential and I think some commercial.
Yeah, he just purchased the theater and the
Across
Oh,
adjacent
that's
coffee
brother, isn't it?
house.
So have we,
Isn't that the brother? I didn't think it was the same guy.
It's
I
on
thought
their
they were
properties.
brothers. I know, but there's brothers. I thought it was,
I thought it was the properties rather than the individual. The
Yeah.
company.
people, I don't know, are they different? Are they?
I don't know,
So
the way I read the
Joe,
article on the Post-Dispatch was, it was.
Yeah, for the
brother.
theater, those are,
Yeah.
I didn't get to read the postage, but there's a paywall. So
yeah,
I saw it, but I don't know. I don't know if it's the same person.
I think
yeah.
it's the same.
I think we're probably safe to assume that if it's
Yeah.
on
Alright.
property,
Family.
it's probably,
yeah.
they're probably working together in some
I
way.
guess my reason for asking that was like, have we seen what they've done with other developments? You know what I mean? Like, have they, say, torn down a historic building and put up like something that wasn't characteristic? You know what I mean?
Well, they requested several years ago to tear down a house that's behind the office building at the corner of Maple and Lockwood. And that was denied. So now I think they use it as an annex. Do you guys know the house I'm talking about? It's like an old
It's green.
Victorian.
Yeah.
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 And they
Now-
just made use of it, they didn't.
Okay.
On Maple.
Yeah, on Maple across from Schnarr's. Now, he's owned this property since 2005, so he's owned it 20 years practically. So I don't know, I kind of feel like he's owned it long enough to determine what he wants to do with it. Well,
Yeah.
it's not like he just bought it to turn around and tear it down. He's had it for a long time.
Well, that's what we've been seeing. It's pretty much that same thing. It's been, if it's in serviceable condition, it's been a rental for a number of years. And some of them that aren't in serviceable condition, like, we've seen some that were pretty distressed. Those are removed right away.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's responsible to not leave a distressed property just hanging around. you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of, it seems like a cute little house, but if no one wants to rent it.
Yeah.
Or if they, are proceeding with whatever their ultimate plan is. For me, it's
Exactly.
another one of those situations that it's really painful to lose another attainable, affordable house that looks to be perfectly habitable, but,
Yeah.
we have to play by the rules the commission has to play by, and, if it doesn't have a historic value, we don't, we don't have purview outside of that.
And being built in 1945, it's a little more tricky to come up with a good historic
Yeah.
kind of argument for a house like that.
Yeah.
We probably have an awful lot of houses here built around that time that are similar, and so.
Yeah, good points.
So
I'll just-
I would personally prefer they try to sell it to someone who might want to own their
First
home,
home,
an
first home.
individual or whatever, but that's, that's not our,
It's not our business, right?
Yeah.
unfortunately, no. We don't get to tell everybody what to do.
All they have to do is ask.
Opinions for them. No one asked.
I don't think it's our purview, but, Andre has been buying up a lot of these little properties. We've had, I don't remember how many come across our table.
Several, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're they're exercising, they're doing what they are allowed to within
yeah,
their legal
that's
rights.
what it's
so.
not our, but he
Yeah.
is settling land in North Webster.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that in the short period of time that I've been here, I've seen his name come up on his, for architecture review board, for here, 2 for here, and then 1, I think somewhere else. it's all been trying to, like, for our air, for plan commission, I think he has one too, where it's reassembling the lots. But I've seen nothing in terms of development, so I don't know what the plan is. But I mean, there's clearly something he's got going on his brain about it, or maybe it's written out, I don't know, but. Yeah, so that just little nugget, I don't know what he's building or what he's planned.
Okay, so does anyone think that we should hold it over?
From what I see, and the information we have here, I really don't see any grounds to hold it over.
And I'm not feeling that way either, that we might want to, but that's not good enough.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, anything else?
I do have a clarifying question. At one point, do we recommend, or could we recommend that they contact the architectural review board? Like,
We,
we just wouldn't.
that's only for construction, so
Construction, gotcha.
when
okay.
when they're actually doing construction, and then they have to, the city makes
Yeah.
them,
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
all.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So that's so fortunately, we don't have to really get in the mix there for that yet.
I have a question. So is the house not livable? Is there?
No, it looks livable,
Okay.
just in the
Not
past.
just, they've included the inspection report,
Yeah.
inspector's report here, so an idea of what specifically is wrong with the house.
Yeah, so they did include an inspector's report. The most recent one I did include it. It's at the back of the packet. I tried to paperclip them into each case and then the whole packet together. So in the very last page of the first paperclip one is the inspection report. It did fail its inspection. So it would look somewhat like this.
Yeah, you can,
I don't think.
Of course.
Does it,
Well-
do they give any specifics about? the
So,
failure?
yeah, I can pass this around.
Yeah, we've had an inspection report the last time and it didn't give us any idea of what, it could be just minor items or it could be something major, but they used to call out what the deficiencies were and we haven't been seeing that lately.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me either. I mean, I can pass it around. It just says it failed.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I don't know if it also could just be a reflection of just being short-staffed and people are just trying to, make sure they are as elaborate in their information as to why. But I don't have any
So,
information.
the inspection reports that we receive are from their inspectors, not our. inspectors,
Oh, okay, well.
Right?
so I don't
No,
have
I'm
it.
asking you.
Oh, I don't know. This is my first one with you
This
guys.
one, the vote-
I have that one inspection
Let's do-
report and it says failed, so,
Inspection results failed.
yeah,
It
And
just
it's from
says
us.
failed, it says nothing else.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So there's nothing.
The ones we used to
You
get
tell
had
us
like,
why.
roof or foundation cracks or, whatever it was.
Or insufficient wiring or whatever, so,
They're trying to log in Mac, I'm not gonna try.
so we could
It
tell
actually
whether.
doesn't matter, like,
For this
we
one.
can't find anything historically significant
Yeah.
anyway, it
Then it's just
doesn't
like,
really
It's out of our,
matter,
out of our. purview.
unfortunately.
got it.
Sometimes it does play in exactly
Yeah.
how much is wrong with it about.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
If it's deciding whether or not to hold it over, if it's in such severely distressed condition that nobody could bring it back, then that might weigh into a decision to demolish. But if it just has a few little, minor items,
Which I'm
But-
guessing it does, because
Yeah.
our house failed when we first bought it, because there were electrical problems.
It
That they
tends to.
did some little bit of thing and then it passed, it was kind of a joke, actually. So
Yeah.
that's how I always look at that. If there's not much information, I just look at it like it was not a brand new house for sure, and renovations maybe weren't done quite like they should have been,
Yeah.
something like that. So, because they don't even have photos that show, at least
Well,
I
I think
do
there are photos
appreciate-
in here.
no, I mean,
Well, they
photos
show
are
what
Right,
the flaws
right,
are.
right.
they're honest about it, and I appreciate that, quite honestly. I don't like it when they put like garbage bags in the middle of it just to make it look like it's messy or something.
yes.
It's not, it doesn't really fool anybody.
Good point.
So they're showing this is what the house looks like. It's up to us. It looks as though someone just lived in it,
Yeah.
but we're here for the historic value.
Historical,
Right,
yeah.
yeah, and if we can't even come up with what,
And it's a mute point then.
then it doesn't really matter. Like Carol said, it's one thing if we're thinking, yeah, it could be historic, but it's not worth doing that much work to, that would be one thing, but this is kind of,
It really doesn't play in as a decision maker in this plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Okay, it's probably enough. So do we have a motion for this one?
I move we approve the request to demolish 506 North Elm Avenue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, the request for demolition for 506 North Elm is approved.
All right, so the next one is 3185 South Brentwood Boulevard, which I'm told by Joe that you guys had last time, and it was tabled and brought back. So that's what I got.
Okay.
I appreciate that everybody had done their research and shared it with us online. And I also looked in the county historic buildings inventory, and it is not listed. I didn't think it would be, but it was worth a check. And so got an interesting history, but I don't know if anything anybody could do.
Exactly, it's not, I didn't see anything either that was significant, that made it historically significant or special and anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is what Brian had contacted me about initially, and we looked into it. It just, for the property owner, was the woman who bought it's on about a 3 acre, originally like about a 3 acre lot. That this woman and her husband had purchased around 1906. And she sold off parcels, and homes were built on them. And this seems to be the last remaining home on that lot. This one was built, is actually 1926. I've got the building permit. But we have that in our collection that I found. She was kind of interesting. She was born in Missouri in the 1860s, actually before the Civil War. So it was possible that she was a freed slave. Her parents were born in Virginia, so they obviously were enslaved. And her occupation now in census reports was laundress, but yet she owned this large acreage. And had sold it off in pieces. Like I said, you can kind of see on maps and also in tax records where these were sold off and homes were built. And actually, the property went from originally went from what was Shady Avenue all the way back to Holland. So it was
Like that whole block.
yeah, that whole, and so this one was built right in 1926, and the doctor who lived there, he moved in around the time it was built. I couldn't find it exactly when he moved in, but he's on the 1930 census as a renter there. And then he ended up, actually, I think it was that same year. Look at some pictures.
Thank you.
That same year he purchased the house.
Wow, that sounds pretty wild.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how she came to own that land.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was gonna look into it more when I had a chance, but it was, this was Brian and I spending about half an hour working together, and then the next day I did some more digging on it and I emailed them, a bunch of stuff that I found.
What was her name? I'm sorry.
I'll need to,
Was it Maria Powell?
yeah, Maria Powell, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to just learn more about her. She sounds very
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, and she lived, she was born in around 1860 and died, I think, in 1939. So she was
Pretty
pretty
long.
aged.
Pretty
Yeah,
long lived for
yeah,
them.
very long lived.
Yeah.
And she lived in a couple of homes that she had built on sublots next to where this one is. And she sold one and then moved into another one. So that she had a couple of different houses and those were torn down. And just looking at Google Maps, those were torn down. You can still see them. I think like around 2007.
So it shows that she was the owner, not her husband, not a husband or not.
Well, she was married, but the tax records show Maria Powell, which is not untypical for that time period because it would often put in the wife's name because the husband died first and it avoided probate.
The life
So,
expectancy.
yeah, so that's not uncommon to see the wife's
that
name
time.
in the, in the tax rolls as the owner.
I think they might have some tax benefit.
Yeah, the reason, right, yeah.
Well, at some point there, it changed where they wouldn't even let women hardly be the owner of a house. You know, you couldn't go get a.
Get a credit card.
Yeah, I mean, I come across it all the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So,
And the person, this is a stupid question, but the person that rented the property was no relation to the Powell.
No, she didn't build the house. She had sold off this sublot to somebody
She sold off the
who,
lot.
right, yeah, so
Okay.
that's what she was doing, is selling off those different sort of sublots on this big lot.
Gotcha.
Because if you look at the property descriptions in the county, I mean, it'll say this one is 150 feet south of this line and, so it's all the same lot, but subdivided. And so she had sold this parcel to somebody who built this house as a rental.
Gotcha.
And this doctor had moved in around the time it was built, and then he ended up buying it. It's chosen the tax records, he was on the 1930 census as a renter. But then if you look at the 1931 tax book, which shows 1930 ownership, I mean, he's listed as an owner like by June 1st of 1930. He had purchased it at some point. It's 1930 after the census was taken. And then he ran it as his office as well. From what I have read, there's a book at the library about North Webster, and he's mentioned in there, and it's with the doctor he partnered with.
Was it Donnelly?
I think so, yeah. It's who the building after this doctor had passed away around 1947 or something like that.
okay, so really
And he was
more
well,
interesting person.
he was
isn't
a
the-
well-known doctor and, he served the North Webster community. And then this tie into Maria Powell, who owned the property. It is kind of interesting. And it seems to me, from what I can tell, sort of a last house of property that she owned that she sold off. There's there's a creek behind it, so there's not much you can do with that. But then on the other side of the creek, she had sold off that stuff as well along Holland. And those houses seem to be, they're now, or look like they were built like in the 60s or something, But she had sold off property as early as 1906 where houses were built back then. Yeah, so, the house, so the lot basically, went straight back this way to Holland, more or less. All along from 3177 to here, 3197 was all, and you just take it straight back, and that was basically, so this road is new. There was a road up here, a street up here called Emma Avenue, that had houses on it that's gone as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so she had sold. Was it 3185? Yeah. So she had sold this property originally up to about here and then owned the rest of that section. And then he ended up buying this part too. So he owned the doctor. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. He owned
Reynolds.
the house and then he owned the sublot behind it as well, which was never, it doesn't look like that was ever developed.
It's like. Okay, so it looks like it's a great redevelopment, the land clearing.
Yeah, that's all been redeveloped and it's not part of, it doesn't show the original subdivision name or lot, property description as the other ones.
So the land clearance for redevelopment is the one that tore down those houses and is, or
Well, that's what it looks like based off of the ownership for that space back here, and I imagine that's because of the creek. But in terms of these, I think, well, this one is owned by Onders. So that's owned by MC Co-Investments. I know the other side of her is owned by MC Co-Investments, so. I don't know what that
Everything,
is.
every parcel except the one we're talking about is owned by the MCO, because I looked at it.
And all that's Onder. Onder owns everything from here down. The only thing left for him to buy was this 385. So all of this is clear. All of this is vacant right
Makes
now.
sense.
And he owns everything down here and this was the last thing he was waiting for.
Hmm.
So he bought all of these up over the years.
So is MCO the same as Onder?
I'm pretty sure if you go back through and look at the
Yeah.
And actually,
beneficial owner or something like that,
if you want to see what that property looked like I have a map on our website from 1909 that shows what Maria Powell owned, and you can see the extent of
I would
that
love to
lot.
see that.
You can, you go to wgpl.org.
Let me let you check.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll need the mouse too.
Need a pad, need a mouse pad.
He came with a pad.
So on our website,
We take care of our librarians.
well, you mentioned you don't get the post-dispatch, but if you get a library card, we have it all.
Oh, see, all right. It's sold.
So under the reference tab, we've got our house history section, and this is where we have our building permits and tax records. But then we also have a link here to the different maps that we have. So this 1909 county plat book will have, let's see, it was divided into two, east and west. So this is on the west side. And I'm actually gonna,
Yes, you
I'm gonna do that. It actually is easier to view when it's.
So it looks like this is correct.
Yeah, so
That is
it's,
train.
so Cynthia Marshall subdivision. Yeah, this doesn't zoom in real well, but this is Shady Avenue right here. And Maria Powell, that's her lot. And in 1909, so that was her original house. And then it went all the way back here, you see to Holland.
Hmm.
And she had already sold these 3 little lots for houses to be built. And then here's Emma Avenue, which came in and connected with her property. So what the house we're interested in is like right about here. And then she ended up holding the lot behind it and then sold it again to the doctor who owned the whole strip from here to here.
Nice.
So, but yeah, so this all together, that rectangle was roughly 3 acres.
Thank you for that.
Impressive.
So. That I've wondered before about when we do this kind of thing. Like this house all by itself. Was, the lot, that wasn't her house.
Right.
But yet the property is associated with someone who's very interesting.
Yeah.
The property in general. This is a developer. Do we have any, and maybe, I don't know if anyone knows, but do we have any leeway of saying like, yes, you can demolish it, but we'd like you to do this?
I was
We'd
just
like you
thinking-
to have some sort of something or another that
Yeah.
reflects this woman who.
A plaque or something.
Right.
And I think he
That's
would be
what I was
really
thinking.
receptive
Yeah.
to that because Onder owns quite a few properties in the neighborhood. And I've gotten to have several conversations with him and he is absolutely open to doing things to honor the neighborhood and the history to the neighborhood. So I do think that he would be receptive. I can't speak for him and
Sure.
say what he will or won't do, but it absolutely would not hurt to put a recommendation in there like that. In fact, he contribute a significant amount to the statue at,
Barbary
Barbary Park.
Yeah,
You know, and
so-
so he is definitely an ally.
Yeah, he's like a civic minded
Yeah.
person.
Mhm. In fact, he just bought the Ozark
Yeah.
Theater.
Yeah,
we were
he's
just
gonna
talking
fix
about
up the
that.
inside.
Yeah, and
So-
he's so. mhm.
so I guess from a process perspective, like, do we just, how do we give them the recommendation? Like, what, do we, I guess we have to agree on what we want that to look like, but then what do we do from there?
I don't think we could, I don't know, we could do anything official, but maybe we could, as far as putting it in a motion. I'm just thinking out loud here, see what y'all think. But perhaps we could compose a letter from the commission and send it to him saying you might be interested in this and we think it would be appropriate to include something on your property that would honor this individual. I mean, just, you
For
know, as a-
historic preservation?
yeah, just as a polite request, and it sounds like that Mr. Onder is a very civic-minded person and is interested in our community, which not all developers are, as we know. So, you know, maybe he would be receptive to that. If we were to just inform him and send him a letter. I don't know, that's just a
Yeah.
thought.
How does the demolition permit get issued? Is it just email when we approve it? Is that?
That's a good question.
Well, doesn't the city
I
council
don't know
have to
just
approve
yet.
it too? I mean,
Um,
we're just the initial, aren't we?
Yeah,
City council have to approve the,
Mhm.
They don't?
Demolition? I don't believe so.
No, I
how
think
about
not.
the planning commission?
No, not for a
It's
demolition.
just, it's buck stops here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's for the demolition part, though.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right,
We
the
don't
developer,
really have any say-so in what you're gonna do with. the
Right,
property.
when
So,
the-
like, that's
so it
what
would be a
we're asking. That's what we're
recommendation
asking.
on our part to say, would you put a plaque or something up?
So that's why.
And
we
another
have to
thing
buy
that I
out
would
the permit.
suggest, I'm sorry, another thing I would suggest is when he does go before the planning commission to get his proposed plans submitted, it would be, I would suggest that someone from that the historic HPC even attend that, because there will be a public hearing.
Yeah,
And-
and I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Maybe we could suggest it to him now, so he doesn't feel like he's getting blindsided.
Blindsided, and then
yeah,
be present, have your presence at the planning commission
just-
public hearing to state that we are aware, we had information, help from the library that discussed the significance of the area, and we would like to recommend that ABC XYZ.
Yeah, and, you know, hopefully if we, you know, write him a letter in advance.
In advance, exactly.
He would be, amenable to that,
Mhm.
and then we could be there to provide additional information and support,
Mhm,
for that idea.
Well,
exactly.
that's why I asked about how the demolition permits, because if there's a place for staff comments or anything that would go along with the transmittal, you could say that, you know, HPC would like, if you would consider whatever we want them to consider, but to go with the demolition permit.
yeah.
Rather than a separate, what I'm afraid of, Carol, is I'm afraid this, what we're talking about now will get lost. So by the time Karen's
Mhm.
right and they comes up with a proposal for the whole site, we won't remember that we did this, and nobody, no staff
Nobody
will
would-
remember to come back to us and
right,
suggest.
no one knows when it is and all
Right,
that,
yeah.
You have to
exactly.
make a note to the file, and the file doesn't exist yet, because the proposal doesn't exist yet. So that's why I thought maybe say it with the demolition permit. This is
Yes.
what we'd like you to do.
So
Yes,
we'd have
that's
to
what I
do
was
like a-
wondering, if we can
Okay.
put it with the permit itself, it
Right.
just says right on there that the HPC recommends historic
So that's
interpretive
it, right.
materials be added into the development. And, you know, something like that, even that simple is written right with everything, so that every person reads it when they see it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe we could, we'll try not to be a nag, but just because of the way things are, send the letter to Mr. Onder
Mhm.
and put the remarks on the permit,
Yeah.
and, you know, just so it keeps coming up
Mhm.
as the property moves through its process.
And I
So
mean,
it'll-
even, is it possible to even with whatever it is that we're putting with the demolition permit, request that this also be added to the planning
Right.
documents when
Gotcha.
when the thing is developed to be presented to the planning commission? So that we can,
That would be
Yeah.
another place to reintroduce it.
Yes.
Assuming you do staff reports, so it could go into the staff report as a consideration for the planning commission.
I think
Did you do any background? Did you do anything on this, Maria Powell? Did you and
Yeah,
Ryan?
a little bit. Like I said, I spent maybe about in an hour or two, kind of digging through stuff. So if you want, I can do something more formal, and I email them, hey, look at this, look at that. But I can do a write-up of what I found to give sort of a history of the, not just the house there, but the property. And,
We got a little write-up from Brian. He emailed us some background on it.
he and I had looked into that together but if you
Okay.
wanted me to do something a little bit more formal.
Might be something good to don't pass on. So he knows, why we're saying this and what the significance is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
mean,
like when we send a letter
Mhm.
to him, it would be good to include some information, so it's not just now go find out.
Yeah.
We're not doing that, because that's also, I don't really want to do that either, just put a burden on
Yeah.
someone.
Makes
I
sense.
think that picking up some of that burden ourselves
Yeah.
would be the way to go about this. So, obviously with a little help from the library, but.
That's right.
But,
Well, sorry, I don't want to.
that's okay.
Okay, so I like the idea of putting a letter together. I think what I would like to is outstanding in terms of the letter is deciding who's going to write the letter. I can put it on letterhead. I don't think I should be the one to write it though, mostly because I'm not the Historic Preservation Commission. But if we want it and there's no one else to write it, I mean, I guess maybe we could type something up, but it might be more meaningful if it's not just a staff recommendation.
Yeah, I think it could actually come from the HPC.
I can write a
Correct,
letter.
yeah, and then I can make sure it gets
Okay.
on letterhead. I do like the idea of putting his a little packet or a little like thing together,
Right.
kind of to be like
Yeah,
included with
what
that.
I do this a lot with, helping people research their homes, and I'll have, kind of like a memo format with bullet points of, this is the first owner, this is the second owner, and then kind of bullets underneath of significant things that I found about them, like when they bought it, what they, what have you. So I can do something similar with that, and I'll have attachments with images like the map
Yeah.
and, images from the tax records and, anything that you can find. I found her death certificate, that's where I found out about her, being, her date of birth, and also her parents being born in Virginia. It had mentioned it on the death certificate. So, and it had her husband's name, who had predeceased her, but yeah, so.
Was she blessed?
So,
Yeah.
So do you- so we can assume her parents were slaves, but
I would
you
think
don't
so, yeah, because,
know.
her parents were born in Virginia in the
Right.
1830s, so,
Right.
yeah. What I don't know is if she actually was,
Yeah.
I think she was born in 1860. So, I mean, and in Missouri, so it just depends on if her parents had been freed, or if it's, that's never a definite
And
issue.
St. Louis
with-
was
with
interesting
Missouri.
because St. Louis had enslaved and free. black
Exactly,
folks.
right,
Right.
yeah, yeah, she was, I can't remember the town, but yeah, it's on the birth certificate where she was born. And in what year, and then also like her parents' names and where they were born and I think just had their years of birth.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So then, so what we'll do is we'll include it in with the demo permit, just with the application, so it has that kind of archive as well as it's seen whenever he gets the actual permit issued. I will also, once I get the letter and we put it on the city letterhead, then I'll send an email to him. And I've interacted with him once and he was really responsive. I would say he seemed rather pleasant. But I don't know if obviously one interaction is enough to judge a person, but I can make sure to send an email to him with the letter, with the packet once we have it together, and then I'll make sure to keep it on file whenever they do submit a plan, which judging from the land that he's buying, there's obviously a plan in mind.
yeah, this is Jim Onder. I had also sent him some stuff through, actually Jerry Welch came by the library about the Ozark. So I put together a bunch of stuff I found about its construction and even when they put in air
Yes, Jim.
conditioning and, things like that. So, yeah, he was very receptive to that kind of stuff.
Yes,
Just
he's like
because-
looking for ideas with that,
Right.
and that may be even something that he would welcome ideas about, because I was talking to him Friday. And, and he was like, cause he had wanted that I don't mean to go down a rabbit hole,
But
but
that's okay.
he had wanted that forever. And it was the family,
yeah.
they just told him it's not available, not for sale, not for sale, not for sale. And then all of a sudden he saw the sale sign and he jumped on it.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, so now I gotta figure out what I can do with it, and I would like, suggestions, because what the first thing he found out is that it does not have a national historic
No,
designation because they changed too much.
You know
It could-
what?
It could get one.
So see, he could use that help. He would be
Yeah.
very receptive to that help, and that would just help with even the input on the Brentwood problem.
And well, with respect to the theater, I personally think that there's plenty there left to get that on the National Register, which could help him potentially with state and federal tax credits to do his
He would
project.
love that input and that
Yeah.
help. We were just talking about that last
Yeah.
Friday.
Because, that's, I think, like Angela and I and maybe Hillary have been involved in a lot of projects, getting things listed and on tax in tax credits for developments. I would think that would have a very good chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, a nomination form was done for that? Is that what he said? Or-
Well, I know he didn't say that to me. We
Oh,
were
okay.
just talking, I was just congratulating it on
Yeah.
getting it because we had a conversation last summer about it.
Oh, okay.
And so then we were like, oh, poof, he got it.
Yeah.
And so I was just congratulating him. And he said, I'm trying to figure out now, just getting ideas about exactly what to do with it. Because he said he didn't think it would be a best use to turn the whole place back into a theater. He thought that there could be partial of that and then what kind of use he could make for the rest of it. He said, but he was just surprised to find out that it did not have. I don't
Okay.
think he said he couldn't get it. I
Oh,
think
okay.
he said he was surprised that it didn't have it
Okay,
because they either changed too much or didn't do or something.
I think they just didn't do it.
Right.
They didn't go through the trouble.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, they didn't want to put heat and cooling in the place. So
Right, I mean, they
clearly
didn't-
they weren't going to go through that.
Yeah, they
process.
didn't do anything, so, I mean, they did maintain it to some
They did put a
degree.
plant in the bathroom.
Yeah.
The picture.
Well,
Oh.
compared to what
No,
that
absolutely,
looked
yeah.
like before the outside was done.
It's,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
if
the
y'all have
outside
been
looks
around
great.
here long enough to remember what it looked like before they
That was
restored the
Penn
outside.
store.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's, they've done a pretty
No,
good job
this is-
bringing it back. Yeah.
It's definitely-
No, that's.
So
And
anyway,
I do
yeah.
think that, back to our
So,
subject.
yeah, I was gonna
property,
say, so
yeah,
we do, I don't want, I appreciate and like the kind of discussion, and I don't want to interrupt it, but we have two motions that need to be made, or one, depending on, I guess, how you want to make the motion. One is whether or not we are going to approve to demolish it, and then also, I guess if we want to make the motion to have a letter put together, or if we want that just to be a recommendation.
So can we? Okay,
Do
you
it
want to
all
do it
at
as
once.
two?
Yeah.
Can we do it all
Yeah, I
at
was gonna
once?
say, you can just say we make the motion that to approve the demolition. With the idea a letter would be put together, a packet would be put together for him and potentially to have a plaque on the property.
So that's what I was gonna ask you. So I'm willing to put together a letter, but I was wondering, is it acceptable for me to send the letter to everyone for anyone's comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that would be
That's
great.
not a sunshine problem.
No, I
We
don't,
decided that
Oh.
at the last meeting, didn't we? When.
yeah,
That's what I was
that's,
thinking.
Yeah.
we could,
Seems
as,
fine.
as long as we
We're
just
not making
give,
decisions.
we give
Right.
comments
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
also copy a member of
Right.
the city staff to make
Yeah.
it transparent and we don't really, yeah,
I think it's
that's,
fine.
I think
If you
that's what
want,
we understood.
we can always just at the next meeting to just discuss the letter, but I think as long as you aren't voting or making a decision.
Yeah.
I think everyone can put in input around it.
And we need minutes. I mean, as long as you
Yeah.
come here and you mention what you did and what you're doing.
Okay.
I'd like to
I
make
do
a
think-
motion.
Okay,
Just
make a
one,
motion.
one quick item that just crossed my mind, because, we've all experienced that people get a little flinchy when they hear historic something, because they, think, oh, restrictions are gonna keep me, but maybe we could be sure when we do the letter to add in there that this is a request, it's not, there's no restrictions intended, and, to clarify, so nobody gets nervous.
Yes,
Yeah.
no official restrictions.
I'd like to move that we approve the demolition request at 3185 South River Boulevard with the request of a plaque to be put to make mention of the previous property owner,
And Maria, and what was her name?
Maria Powell.
Powell.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. The demolition permit for 3185 South Brentwood Boulevard is approved.
All right. So then the last thing I have, that we have on the thing is, sorry, I didn't make it over, is a budget request and work plan for fiscal year 26. Somewhat new, but we came prepared. I don't know if anybody, was anybody here last year when this was done?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know.
Basically, that's what,
I
this-
know.
that's what
Most
this
of us
is.
were here.
Yeah, we were all here.
Jerry,
You
John.
weren't, you were here.
I don't remember, but I don't think I was.
No.
You wasn't here.
So he has a copy of it. I also have a copy. This is the template.
Mhm.
And then I also have a copy of what was submitted last year.
Right.
And it looks like we only really have to, there's only two parts I kind of have questioned. And I'll pass this around, but the one is a prior year's accomplishment. So for 2024, the year, the past fiscal year accomplishments, we would have to put in updated amounts of applications and public hearings. And then I also had a question because in the last year's, it looks like there was no funding request, but I guess there is a budget line item for HPC. So I guess
It's not much though.
it's
Over the
1,200,
years.
yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say under $1,000.
Yeah, it's $1,200.
I recall that
So
now.
either way, I just wanted to highlight that is in there, but I'll pass that around so you guys can see it. But we gotta do it for this year as well.
And I think we wanted, Laura said we're gonna be asking for them to be presented by the March meeting. So if we, I think, I don't know how you guys did it last year, if you did a subcommittee or whatever, where you sit down and work through it and.
We did that, all the people went together in the
In the-
auditorium
yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went because we had no money. It really wasn't
Right,
much to say.
okay.
We did, I don't remember the exact dates, but we did like the Bethany Church last year, and wasn't that 2024? Early 2024? Yeah, we'll have to look it up and. Yeah.
So our ongoing projects would be our subcommittee doing the
Conservation.
conservation districts.
Mhm.
Thank you. The conservation districts. And would there be anything for that we would want to ask for money to do? That we could think of right now?
Well, what did we spend $1,200 on last time?
That was my, that was.
No, we didn't spend any
I
money.
didn't spend any money.
We didn't request any money.
Over the years, we helped with the library, the tree that's in there with the historic, I think that came out of our budget.
And actually, I wanted to ask about that. It
Yeah.
needs to be updated. But no one seems to know how to update it. So,
And even like you're talking about a plaque for this development, I mean, if it's, even if the Historic Preservation Commission wanted to create a plaque or something for that, or if you wanted to do something like that,
Or contribute to it.
or contribute to it, yeah, because I don't know if you, because it sounds like what we're saying to us, we're just not saying to them, we want you to do something, and then just leave it hanging in the air. It's like you got some direction
Right.
there too. Well, maybe there's a potential to contribute toward that. I mean, you got $1,200 to spend it.
Right. That's what
I mean, I probably shouldn't say that from a friend.
Well, if you don't
Sorry,
spend
we
it,
were thinking it.
So Aaron, I think last year we didn't have the money. I think there was a request because there was budget.
Yeah, it was tight. We were
Okay.
trying to get back to a balanced budget. Yeah, if we get it dispersed,
Well, now we're
So-
getting Amazon taxes, right? So-
yeah, we are.
There you go.
I think
Half
using
of
that
them
money
probably
or
come from me.
allocating some of those funds towards the plaque is a great idea.
We get, yeah, I think that, and plus the fact then, I'm thinking in terms of Mr. Onder, when he's receiving this letter, it's like, here's the information about the background. We think this is why it's significant. We'd sure appreciate it if you could do something to acknowledge Ms. Powell on your development and the Historic Preservation Commission would be willing to, contribute to any
Mhm.
physical acknowledgement that was on
Marker
the
or
site.
something,
Yeah.
So actually, we could actually say it in the sense of, we would like to add something to your, like,
Yeah,
really, we
Yeah.
would like to add something that you can include in your development. We'll have a plaque or
for historic
whatnot.
preservation.
So he's not hiring people to come up with,
Yeah.
having gone through that process of what these words are exactly on a plaque can take people hundreds of hours to do. And, so it can be quite a big deal.
Mhm.
It could be something that we even say in the letter, we would be,
Mhm.
contributing this,
Mhm.
would like it displayed at your development or
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Does
The
that
other
make sense?
advantage of that is we could put our
$1,200
name
isn't
on it.
that much
We
money.
could put Webster Groves Historic Preservation Commission on the plaque.
That's true, yeah.
Mm.
Which would address
Right.
many people's questions of what is a historic?
It's the historical.
We try to make sure
Can't
that the
do your
history is
house.
not forgotten, right?
That's true. So I don't know if $1,200 is enough money to actually,
Well, we
We'll
could,
start there. You could
Yeah.
always ask for
But-
more.
we'll start with that.
And then there's
So-
donations.
So do we have to put together a budget proposal?
Well, that's gonna be our proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we just get the
But
idea there.
there's not a lot of,
Okay,
and
okay.
I know, having heard it last year, everyone we were all there, the chairs were all in the same place, and you got up and talked, and so people would say just about that. That was about all there was to it. There was very little description of what it was they were doing. Is that typical? I mean, you know more about it.
Well, actually, I wasn't there last
Oh, you
year,
weren't
but I mean, I do remember that it occurred and Laura said that you're gonna do it again.
Oh, that we are gonna do it?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of the process, what it's gonna be like for this year. I did look over these. I have a couple other commissions and boards as well. So I looked over those. And they also seem to be kind of a similar track where it's not like really big and a lot of them don't even have funds. So.
Oh, they don't even get the opportunity.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got $1,200.
You
It's
better
more
use
than BOA has or ARB. So, but yeah, so it looks like it isn't a terrible list. I do have a question as to how, I guess, Mara might have been your person, the point of contact, how she handled completing this. Did she type it up and then you guys voted to approve it, or how did that
She
work?
typed it up and gave it to me when I went to the auditorium.
Okay, all right. Well, so I will type it in,
you
and then
can-
I will bring it to our next meeting, and then we will vote on it.
You
So that
can
way
give
we
it
make
to
sure.
all of us if you want to.
Yeah.
because
So would that be an
that's-
agenda item for next meeting?
It will be the agenda item for next meeting.
I'm sorry, I just got lost. What are you talking
Is
about?
that okay?
What are you talking about?
The actual
The budget
document.
request.
No,
Okay.
not the budget, of course, will be a part of it, but
Annual
it's gonna be
report.
this,
The annual
the actual
report.
template.
Okay, so you guys will work together and fill it out, whatever it's gonna be, and then give it to you and you're gonna.
Well,
type
it
out.
looks like a lot of it is gonna stay the same, except for the number of, so that's what I highlighted in last year's report. So went over it, and it's like the mission, values. I guess I should say is that I'm assuming that a lot of that's gonna stay the same, like your mission and values isn't gonna change. But I was thinking I would type up based off of what information I had in the next meeting, we could vote. You guys could vote, not we, I'm not a part of it. You guys would vote as to whether or not you liked it, or if you wanted to change you'd make a motion if you want to change the mission or value based off of what I typed.
Yeah, and we could go back and look at the previous agenda items from last year.
Right.
Cause I don't remember, like the Bethany Church and our restaurants. I remember the weather was cold.
And then you do something with the Joy properties too?
We
Or you started, you just talked
we
about it?
we did the research on the Joy properties, but then we put that on hold so we could do the actual designation on the restaurant, because that was more straightforward. And then there was the other one,
We
and
did
I
the
can't.
historic
Yeah,
district for the black.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, I'm trying to, Gail Jones, I knew it,
Yeah.
it's in there somewhere,
Yeah.
Miss Jones.
Oh, you're on Marvin
I
Court.
see your face,
Yeah.
I remember.
That's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one too. That's right.
Yeah, so we did Miss Jones too,
Mhm.
and I think that was all.
Was it, I'm not sure if the Lestron was
I don't remember if that
last year.
was,
It might
I
have been
think the restaurant
23.
was last year.
that's why I was gonna
I'm
say,
not
we,
sure.
I'd have to look at the minutes to
Oh, yeah,
even
we
know
do.
what was
It
23 and what
wasn't
was 24.
It was in the winter.
It
Cause I
was,
remember there being issues of it's gonna be the holidays or something.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
there'd be-
23.
Yeah.
What is this? 25?
yeah, I don't know, that's why I'd have to look to see what the cutoff point was, because I remember like specifically that it was really cold.
Yeah, because I wasn't on the committee then, Emily was.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
so that would have been 23 because it changed last year after the election in April of 24 was when I was back on the committee. So the Lustron Homes
Or before that.
was before that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are we doing January to January as a calendar or April to April?
Oh, Lord, that ain't. a good
I will
question.
find that out.
Yeah.
let us
Because,
know.
yeah, I was gonna say,
We
because
didn't ask for money last year, so.
I'm just saying in terms of what our
What projects?
accomplished were last year, are we
Right.
doing the calendar year or
Or
are
the
we doing
fiscal year.
the fiscal year for the city?
Yeah. So I was gonna look up based off of our just permits pulled and then just go off of that. So not permits, but
Demolitions.
Yeah, people that submitted
Yeah.
applications like these too.
Cause yeah, Mara had that last year. She had how many demolitions we approved, you know, who, cause that's, we're so proud of that. So,
Yeah.
And then, well,
and stuff like, and what we didn't or whatever.
Right, right.
yeah, so that's why it would be good to put in some good stuff instead of just.
I like
the
that.
other.
idea.
Yeah, cause then it was sort of.
And on the
like-
plans, do you think it would be appropriate to put in how reaching out to him, not only the plans with this one, with this project and this demolition and your recommendation to have a historical whatever on there that we're gonna do. I think that would be a good one to put on here. Too, am I thinking in the same, when we look at the section in there about what do you have proposed for this year coming up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Those are our ongoing long-term projects.
Yeah,
or
that.
Something like that. There's something prior year.
We can include it. I can find a spot.
Ongoing projects.
And you might even, somebody wants to just kind of take the horn to reach out to him about the Ozark property. To see what, and then it could be you're helping him determine or define or find out what the historic significance might, helping get whatever designation might be able to get for that property. Does that, am I like?
We might, what would you say? We might be able to advise him of the potential. but
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen one of those National Register nominations. They're pretty extensive.
Oh, he's got a big
documents.
staff. Y'all don't do the work. I
Yeah,
mean, just
I was
like,
gonna
you
say,
know.
there's a real specific format that you need to follow and everything. But I think just making him aware
Yeah.
of the potential
Mhm.
and that it's really worth looking into because that can be a really good payday if he can get state
And
and
he would be
federal
real
tax.
receptive to that.
Yes,
So,
yeah, real.
And recognition too.
He'd like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he would very much like that.
I mean, there's rules to follow and there's paperwork to do. You basically have to, once you get it on the register, that's a whole process. And then you have to apply for the tax credits and you basically have to tell the state and the federal government, this is what we plan to do. And then you need to do it.
Mhm.
And then you need to submit what you did so they can say, okay, did you do what you said you were gonna do and where did all this money go? And if you get all of that right.
So
then you're
for our
good.
purpose, would it be something as simple as saying, inquire to see if you might be able to, provide input
Yeah.
into, something like that? Because I'm certainly not recommending that
Yes,
we do the work. He
yes.
makes a whole lot of money.
So he makes
you
a
know.
lot of money.
Right.
There's no, and those are all jobs for people
Those
to
are jobs
do.
for people to
Where he
do.
is also making money off the situation. Those are
Exactly.
Things where
Yeah.
however, as the Historic Preservation Commission for Webster Groves, I
It would
really have
be
no
good
problem
to be-
saying to him,
Yeah.
here's what you could do.
Right.
And then as a person who's worked in historic preservation for 30 years and done many of these kinds of
Mhm.
things, like Carol said, we could give him some advice on what to do. I have no problem with that, or if he wants to know this, that, or whatever. Eventually, he has to hire someone who is gonna know as much as we do about it, right?
Mhm.
So,
It's,
he
yeah,
has to.
But again, I think
You
it's
can't
a
do this
good
yourself.
idea. I think it's a
But-
good tap on the shoulder for the Historic Preservation Commission, you know, to be able to say that you were engaged, that you did this, that you supported it, that you provided your input and what have you. And especially at this point where he's
Yeah.
saying he's looking for ideas.
Right, if he's looking like, what do I do here? Then
Mhm.
I have no problem saying, here's what you could do, this, that, or whatever, you know, that would
Call
be
him and
fine.
congratulate him and say,
Yeah,
hey, did
because,
you think that, have you considered doing this and what, and just open up that conversation. He loves to talk.
oh, he does,
He's really
okay,
friendly. guy.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But,
Right. Well, so
I'll shut up.
at this point, I just wanted to kind of put it out there, nothing to vote on at this meeting. But so now it's in your psyche. We can think about it, dream about it.
okay, would you, could you send us this?
Oh, yeah, I can send you the
Like
template.
email
Yeah, I can
this
email
to
the
us,
template
and
to
then
everyone.
if we wanna add some information, any of us that have something to add could add.
Yep, and then at the next meeting, you'll bring it, because that would be city business. We're
Yeah.
not gonna do it via email. You'll bring it to the next meeting, and then I can make whatever changes, and we can vote on it, and then it'll be done.
Yeah, and if you guys, whenever y'all get a chance to look into whether it's calendar year or fiscal
Yes,
year,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
could
I'll
just
send
fire
that.
that out to us.
I'll shout that out whenever.
That's
I
really
send it
important
to
too,
you.
because if we're looking at, fund, like
Yeah.
projects, because I'm sure the city would want to
I'm
like,
thinking it would be
wanna
fiscal
know.
year,
I
which
think
is
it's
June to
fiscal year. It
June,
has to
because
be.
that's the
Yeah.
only way that we can get it in our budget. Right
Oh,
now, we're
right.
getting ready to
That's
start
what it
budgeting, so our
Yeah.
fiscal year
Yeah.
is June to June.
Mhm.
So it makes sense to me that if she's wanting to have this done by March,
Right.
it's so that when we start pinning down the budget, we've considered this stuff. So my recommendation, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I would say take it fiscal year,
Mhm.
which is June to June.
Because obviously our budget is June to June, otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
All right,
Okay,
well, so
is
then
that-
that's,
Okay, so do we have anything else? Anybody?
John, were you gonna tell us anything more about, he said, I thought Brian mentioned something about
Yeah,
what
so-
resources you
right,
can offer
so-
us?
I'm available to help however you guys need to do research on properties. I mean, just looking at these, you're relying on the county, what's in the county website for the year a structure was built, and I mean, I found that that's sometimes off by a decade. So yeah, so I can help Brian came by, I guess it was after the meeting, I always work Tuesday evenings. And our kids actually went to school together. And
nice.
I recognize them, and anyway, so yeah, I showed them what resources we have, but then just dug into it, and I can do that. Yeah, I'm available to do that. You can just reach out to me. I can come to the meetings every month. I don't mind doing that, so I'm already down at the library in the evenings on Tuesdays.
Do you consult, like, say if I want questions about my own property?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah,
Okay. How do I contact you?
yeah. Roll these out.
Thank you, sir.
Because that map is pretty good. But yeah, it's Holland, I live on
Nice.
Holland. I grew up in that. So that-
One and took the
Anyone?
rest.
I was gonna see if they made it all the way around here.
I have another-
Short one.
One more.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so even on your personal properties, I do that all the time for people, to help them out, if they're interested in getting like a Century Home plaque or something. Yeah, and I work with the Historical Society on part of their research group. So they'll contact me if they've got, need me to dig into something to, verify or whatnot, so. Yeah, so I'm available, to help out however I can, and yeah, I'll come to the meetings every month and.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Good,
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, but one of the things that I also, I mentioned that the trees that we have in the library lobby where we've got little plaques for the homes on the historic register, I guess. This came up, I guess, about a year ago when that Marvin Court house was added. And I only started working, I've been at the library since July of 2021, but I started part-time in the reference area. And then was hired full-time as the reference librarian in November of 2023, so a little over a year. But so this came up right after I started, and I started looking into, well, where are those plaques? I mean, how do we update it? And it was kind of shrugged and and didn't really know how we can get little plaques made, to add to those trees.
So
Could add our budget.
if we
for
gave
that.
it to them, we should probably update it, right?
Yeah, that's makes
Seems-
sense.
Yeah, I had contacted,
I remember that. I
Yeah,
was new to to this commission.
I had contacted Maura about it, and, but yeah, she just never has the time to,
So are the Lustron houses on that tree?
which ones?
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
They're Lestron houses, they're all houses that were built after World
Oh,
War
yeah, those
II.
little metal,
Yeah.
yeah, there's one
Yeah.
over on Summit.
Yeah,
right there.
we did a designation on those, or
Mhm.
most of those.
Right.
That was a project that we accomplished, and then also the Bethany Lutheran Church is one that we've just done since I've been here.
Nice.
So I don't know if those are on there or not, but maybe we can just kind of take a look at where it left off and then. go
Yeah,
from
I've
there.
I've got the list of them all.
Oh,
And obviously they're right there, you can see them. But yeah, the only one that we don't have that's new, I guess, was that Marvin Court. That's how,
okay, because those others were after that.
No,
We did.
the Lustron were before that, and then the Bethany Church
after
was
that.
maybe after that.
Um,
Yeah, Bethany
I-
was after that.
That might be right.
yeah, so I have the list.
Yeah, because,
and
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
on my computer, I can,
Okay.
It was Lestron, Marvin, and then Bethany. I
Oh,
think. Yeah,
Something. Yeah.
yeah.
the Bethany Church is now.
Yes, it
Okay,
is,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, so right, so. we-
Yeah, that was great. Members of the community came and asked us to do that designation. That, yeah,
Which
Like,
feels
it's
like
a
it was
big-
like last
yeah.
week, but it was a few
It
months.
does.
yeah.
Is it being used for what purpose?
It's a church.
It's actual church. It's
Yeah.
having-
It's under construction. I went by there recently and they're
Yeah.
doing stuff there already.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
painted it. It looks really nice. They have
Yeah.
the, I walk by it. I live in Tuxedo Park. And so I walk through there a lot and, the gutters are like a copper, finish to them and it looks really nice.
Yeah.
So they are gonna use it as a church?
Yeah,
again?
a congregation that was meeting over in Kirkwood in a rented space, bought that church to use it as their home.
good.
So it's being used as a church.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that was like, I think that was a real win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause they would have.
Trying to go that
Yeah,
direction,
so,
so.
I drove by,
yeah,
there
that
was
was,
construction
um,
going on when I
okay.
drove by.
that was,
That
yeah, that felt great.
Driving
That
around,
felt
it
great.
was-
Yeah. because-
Especially since it was,
Yeah.
members of the community came in. We didn't know anything
Wasn't
about,
on our radar.
anything about it.
Yeah.
And they came in and wanted something done. Just made it so like, hey, we're helping out the community and they wanted it. We got it done for them and,
And a lot of the people were descendants of the original founders of the church
Whoa.
that still live in that area.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
said, hey, this means so much to us, to our families. And our ancestors founded the settlement in this part of Webster. And this was the anchor of their community. And yeah, I was very impressed. We had like that
that's really neat.
13 or 14 people who came and said, hey, would you guys do this? It was-
And what was so profound about that was that the current owners, who was whichever church, they really didn't give a rat's.
Yeah.
They were just like, you know
they
what,
were
we
in-
want it done,
The
we want it
Synod,
sold, we
Lutheran
want it out
Synod.
of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
we're
the
done.
Lutheran Synod.
And they didn't want the designation because they thought it would make it more difficult for them to sell.
Yeah.
That's right.
that's,
And the woman said, no one will ever use this as a church. No one's gonna buy it for that.
yes, that was,
So
yeah,
that part made me feel good.
yes, I had an inward smile about that too. It's like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
How
You
about
never
that?
know.
The universe has spoken on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll be mindful of time. So we do need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, do we have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
I.
Aye, opposed, and we are adjourned.